most gracious and merciful God, we know that sometimes when we walk away from you, all other ground can be quickly turned into quicksand, and we will begin to sink. All it is we have to do, though, is call on your name, and soon, once again, we are standing on solid ground. And that is the foundation of our faith, the solid. So, Lord, I'd ask you to be with us here as we come with our hearts open, our mouths filled with joy. And, Lord, let the meditation of my heart and the words of my lips be acceptable in your sight. Amen. You may be seated. The gospel lesson this morning will come from the Gospel of Matthew in the 16th chapter, starting with verse 13. And it's about Peter's declaration of Jesus. Now when Jesus came to the district of Caesarea Philippi, and he asked the disciples, "Who do people say the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others say Jeremiah or one of the prophets." But he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter answered, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah. For flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I tell you, you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven." Then he sternly ordered his disciples not to tell anyone that he was the Messiah. These are the words of God for the people of God, and we say, thanks be to God. I know, and a lot of you at one time or another have heard different stories, different jokes about Peter and the pearly gates, and he's the one who decides who goes in, who gets left out. But why is it Peter? Why Peter? Because it all comes from this gospel and the image that we have of Peter as being the gatekeeper. The one who says yea or nay. But the keeper of the keys refers to the teachings of the church. Not who enter heaven, not who does not get to enter heaven, because those decisions are left for Christ alone. Those are his decisions. The decision rests on Peter's confession, not on Peter himself. "Who do you say that I am?" Jesus asked his disciples. Peter answered, "You are the Christ, Son of the living God." Then Jesus blessed Peter for what he revealed. Peter was not revealed to him by man, but by God in heaven. The other disciples all played guessing games. Some said it was John the Baptist. Some said he was Elijah, or any one of the other prophets. But see, all the people that they had picked out were dead people. These people were already dead. It says John the Baptist was probably, he'd only been dead for a little while. They've been dead for many years. Peter gives the correct answer. The profession of faith. We have it in our hymnal. We have it as part of our church. The profession of faith. He did not come up with this on his own, and it was not revealed to him by flesh and blood. And it was only through God and in God's grace that Peter professed the truth. And from that profession, Jesus makes a confession of faith, the rock confession, Christ. Which Jesus said, "Upon this rock I will build my church." The church was not built on Peter. A lot of us might think the church was not built on Peter. And some may argue that point with me, but I tell you, you're going to lose that argument. The church was not built on Peter. The church was built on a living God, the Son. And those who are given this knowledge by grace confess from God and confess it being part of Christ's church. On that rock, Christian profession of faith, Jesus is Lord, was when the church was built. And the gates of hell cannot overcome the power of this confession of faith. The confession that Peter made is central to the faith of the church. It's central. Christ is always at the center. Christ is Christianity. There are some denominations out there that call themselves Christians, and yet Christ is not at their center. Christ is not at the center. Especially not the center of their beliefs. And if Christ is not at the center, then exactly what are their beliefs? If Christ is not at the center, and you're going to call yourself a Christian. Christ is at the center of our beliefs, so it is that we can make the same confession that Peter made, the same confession that Paul made. And remember, Paul was not a lover of Christians or Christianity, and yet he found the truth. And it was the truth that set Paul free. He never lost sight that he was a sinful man. Paul never lost that sight. A man not worthy of the love of God that God had shown him, but he carried through the good news and loved God with all his heart, with all his soul, with all his mind, and with all his strength. And because of the action set forth by Peter and Paul, we can worship the living God. And through the Son, Jesus Christ, we confess with our lips, and we can truly be saved. All the various religions of the world have built their temples, very magnificent structures, beautiful cathedrals all over this world. But what religion can make the most magnificent structure, not from mortar or rocks, but from a living, breathing person, which is Christ? The spiritual temple in Jerusalem lies in dust now, for most of it. But the house that is of the living God continually to attract itself to persons to allow themselves to be built into a living wall, and into a growing city. That's you, that's me. We are the foundations, building upon one another. The term that Peter used to describe all members of Christ's church makes no distinction between clergy or laity. We're all called to this new life. Why does it go out into this community and say, and ask these people, who do you say Lance Church is? What do you think would be their response? Because I have asked this question of other people out here in this community, and got very, very good answers. Very good answers. Some of them said it was a church of warmth. Some said it was a church of welcoming. Some said it was a church that was on the move. That was a new one for me to hear from somebody that does not even enter into the sanctuary, in fact, which is not even part of the Methodist faith, which they are on the Catholic persuasion, but professed it anyway. As a church of being a church for the community. That's a good thing. A very good thing. A church that has been able to be recognized as being alive. Trust me, you are recognized out in this community as being alive. So when somebody asks you, who do people say that I am? Say, we are a Christ-centered church. That's who we are. We are a Christ-centered church because Christ is always at the center. And if you'll notice, I moved off center. I'm not plumb anymore. I moved it so Christ can be the center. The altar can be the center, not me. Amen. Even though you're going to be looking at me, because you can't help it, like a wart on the nose, you're going to be staring at me. But here I am. Christ is always going to be at the center. And especially over here, I can see each and every one of you very clearly now. I don't have to go like this or like this. No more. I can look straight ahead and see everybody. I like it. I like it better when I get the carpet under my feet. But I like it. Peter uses to describe all members of Christ Church, you know, making no distinctions, is very profound, because a lot of times people try to imitate or emulate other people, thinking that that's going to boost their lot in life, instead of being just people who they are. Because you need to be just who you are, and not try to be somebody else. I remember when I first went into the clergy, I had found this sermon that was great. It's a great sermon. I'm going to give this sermon. And I gave that sermon and it stunk. Basically because it was not my sermon. It was written by somebody who made that sermon very great. His name was Dr. Martin Luther King. He had a dream, and I turned it into a nightmare. But it was all right. It wasn't mine, because it didn't have the same feeling behind it. You got to have that same feeling, so you got to be your own self. Some people are good at being just a trustee, maybe nothing else. Some people are good at being money changers. We need those people. I'm not good at it. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not good with money, because I'll spend it. I never need to go out of money. I can spend it anyway. I never worry about it. But we have people in here that do, and thank God for them. You know, we need people that just have just all different types of gifts. Sometimes just a gift of a smile and welcome be one of the best gifts that somebody might need at that moment. We're all given individual gifts, and we need to share and use those gifts. We're living stones, and as such, we're called to take the gospel, the good news, the confession of faith. We've joined the ministry with the high priest, Jesus the Christ, who served God and people so perfectly, so completely, he served it all the way to the cross. Are we doing this? Is this our desire? This past week I was asked if I thought the church, meaning the institution itself, cares about saving souls. Now when you're in the Bible Belt down south, you're either going to talk politics or you're going to talk religion. Or how many kids Aunt Betty has now. That's one thing you just talk about. I didn't want to talk about either. But you get drawn into it. And I thought about it. I was asking, this is the church, the institution itself, didn't matter what denomination, actually cared about saving souls. And I said, I asked my uncle this, I said, well, maybe we've got to put it this way. Are we just rearranging the chairs on the Titanic? The chairs are starting to shift, so we just start rearranging them so they don't shift so bad. Are they? What is most important? What is most important? Are we desperately trying to hold on to the members that we have, trying to satisfy the masses by going just with the flow of things, right? Maybe just to keep the institution itself afloat? Or are we standing up for what is right in the face of oppression, persecution, sometimes even death? And I'd like to think that's what we do. I don't think we go with the flow so much of what other institutions do. In fact, if some people saw you, they know you wouldn't. They don't know where you're flowing to. And I like that. I like that. Because sometimes when you get flushed down the drain, you just don't know where you're headed, but you know you're going somewhere. You know you're going somewhere. And that's what I want to do. I want to go somewhere. If it has to be flushed, let's flush it. I want to take that trip to see what's on the other side. Because it's got to be exciting. Especially going round and round and round. It's got to be exciting. Those who try and save their lives, Jesus said, will lose them. Those who lose their lives will actually find it. We have big responsibilities, each and every one of us. All of us. We have those responsibilities. We're not called to waste our time rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. We're not called to that. We're called to be living stones who serve, worship, confess, profess to a dying world the good news of Jesus Christ. That's what we do. Spread the good news. We are to follow Christ just as his disciples had learned to follow, which means sometimes taking a risk. And then there's also cost involved. But in this following and risk-taking adventure, sometimes we find real power. Real power that's going to hold us up. Whether we are living, whether we are dying, we have the promise of eternal life. We have that promise. God's relationship to the church, to you, to me, is just as intimate as husband and wife. God calls us to be a glorious bride who will present him in splendor, or to be as a radiant church without stain, wrinkle, or blemish, holy and blameless. Is this who we are? I think this is where we're headed for. I think it is. Is this who we're becoming? I think so. I hope so. It's an awesome responsibility, but it's also the most privileged position anyone could ever hope for. Anyone could ever hope for. I think, may we commit ourselves fully to God's Word, to being God's church, to being in the royal priesthood, God's chosen people. Let's declare his praises. One who calls us out of the darkness, he calls us into a great light. I say glory to God. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.